Hi everyone, welcome back to Nina's Chelsea Corner. Welcome to a new video. It's a little bit of a different format. Going to try something a little bit different. Today I am joined by Charlie. Charlie, thank you so much for jumping on. Me and Charlie are friends from Chelsea Fan TV. He's also got his own channel called Blue Brother. I'm going to link it down below. Check it out, guys. And before anything, like, subscribe, comment down below, interact with this video. And obviously the channel is brand new, so I'm trying different things. You learn and you grow, so any feedback is welcome. But obviously the season has ended. Our prayers have been answered. We've been calling for it for months now. It's been dreadful. We finished 12th, but now it's time to just leave it behind. Pochettino set to come and join in July, and he is not wasting any time. He's already started, his list of players that he wants to sell, keep. And we already know that Joao Felix is leaving. So that's the first. But Charlie, how are you doing, first of all, before we get into anything?
Yeah, all good, all good. Thank you for having me. I better make sure that I'm not a letdown. Yes, I'm good.
First guest on the channel.
Yeah, I know. Better make sure that I'm half decent. Yeah,
no
I'm
pressure.
Good. Yeah, no pressure. No, I'm good. I'm glad the season's done. I love the summer. Love transfers. Could talk about it all day. I enjoy that sort of thing. So it's going to be a busy summer for Chelsea. Lots of players need to come out. A few need to come in. Pochettino starting work officially in the 1st of July. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. And there's plenty that's got to go on between now and then as well for Chelsea. So yeah, exciting times ahead, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the fact that we all accepted sort of even before the season ended, and the owners did, and the board and directors all accepted that we have to go through a squad clear out. That is the first. That is the top of the to-do list. We have to get rid of players before we address the areas that we need to. And it's good to see that that's already, in the works. Of course, Joao Felix, an expensive loan. I feel like we barely got to kind of enjoy Joao Felix, didn't we? In his first appearance, it was his first appearance, he was sent off, wasn't it, against Fulham? Yeah. And, we were all so impressed with his performance. I think he came at a time where we really needed to see something impressive on the pitch, because it just got so repeatedly boring and dull that we were just crying out for any sort of joy. And Joao Felix delivered that. Obviously, he was out for a month after because of his red card. And I feel like his days at Chelsea were very numbered. Of course, we saw that he wasn't the greatest finisher. There was a lot of costly opportunities, but he was very skilled. He was quick. He brought something different. He brightened up our attack. And I'd say that, he left his mark in this dull season. But of course, Pochettino has decided to, cut his time short. No loan, no contract extension or anything like that, or not offering a contract. And he's returning to Atletico. I say fair enough if Pochettino is obviously adamant that that's what needs to happen. But what are your thoughts on that? Are you quite happy? Are you quite content with that decision? And do you think it was the right decision?
Yeah, look, I think so. Look, ultimately, Felix come in and we were excited by it. We needed a lift in the attack because what we've been watching had been so poor. And I was kind of in two minds about whether is Felix really that good, or has what we've been seeing been so shit that he looks amazing? I think it's a little bit of both. He was clearly better than what we had, but also anyone that's just doing the basics in football, like nice passes, intelligent movement off the ball, that sort of thing, which we weren't seeing. We were kind of deprived of the basics, so he looked like some sort of world beater. I do think he's a top player. He's still only 23 years of age, can still develop into a very good player. But I think in terms of a decision to keep him, one, signing a player in that position, that number 10, that's playing off the striker, which is his best position. We've already got Nkunku coming in. We signed him back in December. He's coming in this summer. Mason Mount could still stay potentially. So we have got options in there. Kai Havertz is still here, unfortunately for us, but that is another option there as well. And spending sort of 70, 80 million pounds on Felix, it just, for me, it doesn't make financial sense, given the fact that we need a centre forward, we need a defensive midfield player or two, and we need a goalkeeper as well. And I'd much rather put that 70 to 80 million pounds that it would cost to get Felix on a permanent to better use, putting it more towards funds for midfielders, putting it more towards funds for a centre forward. And unfortunately, look, I liked him. He was happy to stay. The club were happy for him to stay in terms of the board. But Pochettino's come in and said, look, do you know what? I don't want this guy. I'm the guy in charge. This is a team that I want to build. These are the players that I want. And you've got to respect that from a manager. You've got to, as a manager, you've got to be bold. You've got to make the decisions that you think are right for what you're trying to build at the club. And if Poch doesn't think that Felix is part of the plans moving forward, then Felix isn't part of the plans. You have to back your manager. And Chelsea aren't in a position right now, considering we've just finished 12th at our worst season in Premier League history, to be saying, actually, no, you're going to have Felix. We're going to give you him and you're going to make it work. We have to listen to the manager and give the manager what he wants. And ultimately, yeah, it's a shame because he loved the club and he wanted to stay. But we have to put our trust in the manager. And I always maintained it wasn't a priority position that we needed to sign. And I'd have been happy to bring him in, but it would have been based on a set of circumstances that included us addressing all the key areas first. And it would have to involve either Mount or Havertz also leaving for us to even think about it.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And obviously Pochettino, he's going to want to get our trust and he's going to want to make these big decisions. And obviously it seems that Bowley's going to take a step back as well and let him do that. And I think obviously with Joao Felix, you've also got that kind of, he's a big player, isn't he? He's going to be a player that demands starts. He demands playing time. Obviously Lampard didn't really particularly start him in the last few games. And considering they were his last, maybe he could have given him some more playing time there. But yeah, no, in terms of the price tag, though, some will argue that he hasn't quite met that worth at all, really. Do we really want another kind of 70, 80 million player in our squad that's going to be, appearing here and there and just not quite fitting the system that Poch is going to implement? So, yeah, we've got to trust that is the right decision to make there. So, yeah, fair enough. Thanks for brightening up the dull days at Chelsea this season, Felix. So, no bad feelings there. But yeah, I get what you mean about, was it just us really being that desperate, enjoying a player that did that for us? So for sure, yeah, we take time.
We definitely don't need another one of those players, right? That is quite nice in and around the box. It's not the greatest of finishers and isn't that prolific. We've got so many of them. We've had so many of them. We don't need to spend 70, 80 million pounds on another one of those guys. And that's no disrespect to Felix. I think he's a really talented boy, still 23 years of age, as I said, and still got a lot of potential to develop as a player. But for what Chelsea are trying to do in the direction we're trying to go in, it doesn't make footballing or financial sense. So, it's a shame, but we have to start acting as a ruthless football club again and not make decisions on sympathy because he liked the club, or therefore we should sign him. We've got to start operating like a top level club again.
He probably liked the fact that he shone at Chelsea more than he did at Atletico, and that was a thing there, a factor for him there. But yeah, no, you mentioned Havertz there, and obviously Havertz is another player that is, speculation around him departing, staying. Some will argue that he hasn't quite delivered that 70 million we paid for, despite the Champions League final goal. That was seasons ago now. We've got to move forward and actually think, can Havertz actually thrive in Pochettino's system next season? Can we make money off him also is another question, because we know that obviously for financial fair play reasons we need to make money. It's not exactly like we have clubs lined up for him, throwing out bids of any of that kind of sort in terms of money. So do you think that Pochettino will potentially fight to keep Havertz at the club? Do you think he could be part of our plans for long-term prosperity? Because that's a bit of a debate there, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of Chelsea fans are quite clear on Kai Havertz, that obviously we're grateful for the goals that he scored for us, the important ones. But ultimately, he's been here 3 years now and he's delivered nothing on a consistent basis. He used the most.
But why do you think that Graham Potter time and time again started him? Lampard time and time again started it. What is it about Havertz when he doesn't deliver anything, doesn't score goals,
he hasn't got anyone
gets
else.
brought off?
We don't have anyone else. That's the reality of the situation. Aubameyang wasn't playing because he was a Tuchel signing, and Chelsea would never have signed him unless if Tuchel hadn't wanted him. We didn't have anyone else to play there. And I look at Kai Havertz and I think, yes, there's ability there. Clearly, he's a talented boy, but ultimately, at Chelsea and in the Premier League, it's just not worked out. His hold-up play is not particularly good. His finishing's poor. He's all right in the air. He's just got no consistency, and he constantly under-delivers on a regular basis. And, this is not a small sample size. This is a sample size of 3 seasons now where you could probably count on one hand the amount of good games that he's had for Chelsea and the positive impact that he's had around the place. And he'll be one of those players.
He scored back-to-back penalties. Come on, Charlie.
Well, I'll give him that. But, we're talking slim pickings on trying to pick out good things that Havertz has done for us. And You look
That's
at
the
it.
problem, though. You shouldn't be doing that with a player that costs that much money.
No, you shouldn't. But this goes back to my point that, like, of under the previous ownership, where there was no plan in terms of the transfer market. We just saw Havertz, shiny object, one of the most exciting young players in European football, and we thought, right, we got COVID. It was in COVID times. You know, Madrid were interested in him, but we flexed the financial muscle under Roman and signed him. Lampard didn't want Havertz; it was a Roman signing, and so this is my point. Like this Havertz signing is not worked out, and it's because I'm not saying it's because it's a board signing, but it's not worked out. And we've got to move away from the board bringing players in. We've got to bring in players that the manager wants, and that the footballing like recruitment side of things have decided is potentially a good fit for the club. So Havertz was a board signing in the first place. It was, for me, it clearly wasn't the right fit for the team and what we needed. No one really knows what he is. We're 3 years in, we're still discussing what is he? Is he a 9? Is he a 10? Is he a right wing? Like what is he? And, you know, the fact we're still having this conversation this far in just goes to show that no one really knows. And for me, it's so clear that Havertz just isn't going to work out at Chelsea. And I just don't want to see another season of Kai Havertz just doing the same old frustrating things that he's been doing for the last 3 years. But I think we'll struggle to get any decent money for him. I don't think there's going to be a massive market for him. I don't think Thomas Tuchel and Bayern Munich will go for him. I can't see anyone in Italy affording him. Spain, maybe. I wouldn't have thought so. So even if we were desperate to get rid of him, I don't think there's a massive market for him. And I do think that, unfortunately, we probably are going to be stuck with him for another season.
Yeah, no, agreed. And then he'll just be lingering around there. And no, a lot of people have argued that managers just haven't quite worked out. But, you know, how many managers does it take? You know, does Pochettino need to waste a very integral season where we need to be finally rebuilding, because that was put on hold this season, finally building around players that are here for the 6, 7, 8 years that they have signed to be here? Is Kai Havertz going to have a place in that squad? So yeah, you definitely have a good point there, but we'll see. I mean, for me, he's just taking up a spot there. You know, for me, he's just kind of consistently starting, and you're not getting anything with Havertz. So yeah, no, you mentioned Aubameyang. He's probably on the list of players to sell this season as well. I don't quite see Pochettino being particularly keen on Aubameyang either. Obviously, we're going to be in the market for a striker, like a proper number 9. I do think the club treated Aubameyang a little bit unfairly. I think he deserved to have a little bit more starting time. I think he started around like 5 league games or something like that. And when you think we brought him in for the experience and the goals, and some say he dried out, but, you know, considering we needed a experienced striker and we got him for the goals, obviously that was just completely not the case. But obviously Aubameyang seems to be leaving as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a disaster from start to finish, and another failed striker to add to the long list of failed strikers at Chelsea. But I look at it and I just think, for me personally, that the Aubameyang signing was so stupid, because we signed him for Thomas Tuchel because he wanted him. The board knew full well they were going to be sacking Tuchel, but they still sanctioned that signing anyway. And then, you know, bringing Graham Potter, Frank Lampard obviously subsequently comes in afterwards as well. And these are managers that would never have ever signed Aubameyang or used him. So the whole thing made no sense from the beginning at all. And yes, you could argue, you know, Aubameyang still had something to offer potentially, but ultimately, you know, he wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough. And, you know, yes, if you create chances, then if he's in the right position, he will stick it away because he can still finish. But if you're not creating chances, Aubameyang's offering absolutely nothing else. There's no link-up play. There's no hold-up play. He's not in the game at all. So it was just a disaster from start to finish. I don't want to sit here and say I knew it would be, because that's being slightly revisionist. I thought, you know, we could get some use out of him, and it would have been interesting to see how he would have done if Tuchel had seen the season out, or at least been here for a little bit longer. But yeah, just another disaster. And that was another big mistake that the board made, sanctioning that signing, knowing full well they were going to sack Tuchel.
Well, you can add that to the long list of mistakes made by the ownership, really, this season. I mean, if they really come out and say how many wrong decisions were made, we'd be here forever. But yeah, you're right. But then there was the argument that, like you said, there weren't much people creating for him. Obviously, we got Enzo kind of halfway through the season as well, potentially like one of the best creators for us this season. Obviously Felix as well. I mean, we saw in our last kind of games that we can create chances, or we were getting better at it, but again they were just going wide over or just getting whipped in over the other side of the wing and just no one meeting them. And a lot of people argued, is the man in the centre missing? But yeah, no, he's not the right fit. He's definitely, obviously, given age, there are many factors, but we are looking to bring in an actual proper number 9, and I think we can still afford to spend money on that. But of course we've got to still obey FFP rules and we've got to make money, so that's priority. But yeah, moving on to other Chelsea players that are linked with moves away from Chelsea is Kovacic, and obviously that's one of our senior players. It's one of our Chelsea players that have, you know, been around for longer. You know, it's hard nowadays to think about players that have, you know, kind of played in the old regime as well and have been a big, huge part of Chelsea. But it's no secret to anyone that, you know, he's become a lot more injury prone. He's had time out of the season. He's had time adjusting and fitting back into the squad. So there's links with Manchester City. I know Pep's a big fan of Kovacic and has been for a while, and potentially sees him, you know, being a part of their squad, because obviously they clearly need more depth apparently. But yeah, no, it's going to be, I'd say, I'm quite fond of Kovacic. I do think that his time at Chelsea is slowly coming to an end. But what are your thoughts on Kovacic potentially joining Man City? Because then obviously that's joining one of our rivals. We're letting another midfielder go to another Premier League team this season. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's the end of the road for Kovacic at Chelsea. I think for me, it's been clear for the last 12 months that his head's not really been in it. You know, he wants a new challenge. He wants to move on. The club have got the utmost respect for him, and he wants to try something new. And I've got no problem with that. You know, he's always done his best. He's always done his best for Chelsea. Yes, you could question slightly, you know, before this World Cup, you know, we had to manage his minutes because he was nursing a knee injury, and then he just goes and plays every single minute in the World Cup, or he starts every game for Croatia. So something wasn't quite adding up there. Then he comes back and he's not fit. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. In terms of a player, he's been a good servant to us over the years, but you know, we've got to move on from these guys. We've been talking about Kante, Kovacic, Jorginho since like 2018. We need to move on and rebuild this midfield. And you know, the only thing I would say is that we need to be careful not to get rid of all the experience, because yes, we're linked and bringing in a lot of younger players, but you need that experience around the place. Now, if Kovacic goes, you've then got Kante, who still hasn't signed a new contract yet. Those talks have kind of stopped at the moment. You're leaving yourself very short on experience. So if you're getting rid of Kovacic, then you need to do everything you can to keep Kante, because you've got to have a blend of youth and experience in the squad. Look, people saying that, you know, oh, Kovacic going to City, is that a problem? Not for me. Gundogan's probably going to leave on a free transfer. Bernardo Silva could also leave. City are looking for midfield players. Kovacic, Premier League proven, good age. He's not going to play every week at City, that's for sure, in my opinion. He'll be a squad player, and he'll get his fair share of minutes given how far they go into all 4 competitions. But yeah, he'd be a squad role there. He'd probably get 30 to 40 million pounds of him. We need to raise money. We need to trim the squad down, and we've got to start moving on from these guys and stop living in the past. So for me, it's kind of like a thank you for your service, but we need to move on. We can get a good price for you, and kind of all the best at Man City. But for the last year, for me, it's clear that, you know, his head's not really been in it, and he wants to try something new.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. But yeah, there is always that worry there that you're kind of letting go of all the experience. Obviously, Azpilicueta is leaving as well. And I know we're bringing in a lot of young, talented players. I know it's all about kind of like creating a new identity as well for this team and this club. It's a rebuild. Like, I understand all of that, but you know, we're looking at something completely different. You know, Poch is coming in. It might not be such a bad thing, you know, obviously letting go of all those senior players that really their time at Chelsea has come to an end. Like, even Azpilicueta take, you know, I think we really did push out another season. I didn't think he had another season in him, but of course, I guess that was kind of loyalties there and whatnot. And obviously he loves the club, that's not denied. But as a footballer, I think in this season in particular, he has been a setback or kind of inhibited our best performances a lot of the time. And he is that leader there. But, you know, in the footballing world, it's just not really there anymore. And especially with such talented rising left wingers that we've seen in the Prem this season, he's not just been able to compete with that, you know. And at one point, experience really doesn't overpower ability and talent and skill in that sense there. So I think we're looking at a complete kind of, rebuild there, a new identity, a complete new identity. We've been talking about where's our old Chelsea, but I really don't think that we're going to have that old Chelsea anymore. It's going to be a completely different system, a completely different, regime obviously changed, but it hasn't really changed, has it? They're still kind of learning what to do themselves. We've seen our owners make some dreadful decisions, and a lot of people questioning whether they have the club's best interest at heart and its success, and if it's just money and stuff. But I think we're yet to find out, really. And I think it's how we approach this summer transfer window, because of course we know that we can splash the cash, and we did, but now we need to see some reasoning behind it, because we are here to integrate these players. Now we actually have to. We spent the money, of course, that's fantastic, but obviously Pochettino has got a much bigger job on his hands now, coming in and literally starting from scratch, so that it's not about improving, it's about literally starting from a clean slate completely.
Yeah, we have got to start again, basically. This kind of rebuild that was supposed to happen under Graham Potter has kind of been kicked a season down the road. But what I would say as well is I don't want to feel like I'm like slagging off Roman and that, but the reason why we had to sign so many players in January is because we've neglected the squad, and the recruitment's been so poor over the last few years that we had to allowing Christensen and Rudiger's contracts to run down, getting no money for them, meant we had to go and sign 2 centre-backs straight away just to stand still again without even adding anyone, not adding any midfield players since 2018. Like signing Lukaku, spending big money on players without actually thinking about how they fit into the system. Are they right for Chelsea? And this is why we've ended up in this mess. And we've had to go and spend so much money on so many players because the squad was so misshaped, so imbalanced, that we had to do a lot of surgery to it. And that's why we've ended up in this mess. And again, we've still got to go and sign more players this summer because we haven't been able to address every single area in January and last summer. We've still got some key areas to address. And all this comes back to the fact that we didn't recruit properly in the last few years under Roman and made a complete mess out of it. So that's why we're in this position now. But yeah, we are essentially starting again. The squad's changed massively from the start of the season that's just finished to what we finished with. And it's going to be massively different again from what we finish with to what we start with next time. And, now we've got to hope that most of our squad rebuild will be done come the start of next season. And then we just add sort of 2 or 3 here and there each window, planning ahead. So if we know someone's leaving, bring someone in. And then when they leave, we've already got the replacement there. Rather than players leaving, then we shit ourselves like, right, we need to go and get 2 players just to stand still again. We've got to start being proactive and start start properly planning in the window, thinking a few windows. And I think we will do that now. The likes of Vivellin, Win Stanley, Lawrence Stewart, Joe Shields, these guys. Hopefully we're going to start being a much more efficient club in the transfer market. And I think we've already seen signs of that. And yes, you could perhaps call it scattergun in the approach at certain times, but I think there is a clear plan there to bring in some of the best young players in European and world football. But we need to be really careful that we also blend it with some experience as well. So I do have a slight concern that we may be going too far the other way and not having enough experience. And we've constantly said this season that we haven't got anywhere near enough leaders in the pitch or on the dressing room. Bringing in young guys and letting experience go and not replacing that experience, is only going to worsen that problem. So we have got to be really careful there.
No, absolutely. And a lot of them are so young as well, like barely even, had playing experience, professional, playing for the first teams and etc. So definitely, I think there's a big job. But like you said, I think it's because the recruitment was so poor in the past few years this is why we kind of let it get to a state where the things on the pitch looked so awful, because that is equally as important as what you put out on the pitch and, the football that is played on the pitch. So yeah, I think there's a big job to do over summer, but I think I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful. I know I said that last summer. Well, I didn't, because it was obviously sad to see the takeover and stuff, but we're still yet to see these decisions made by the ownership actually make sense. And then we can look back and go, oh, okay, like that's why that happened. But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful because now I know that we will have a squad clear out. How much money we make is yet to be obviously discovered, but then it's just addressing the areas that we need. The midfield striker, obviously we've got Malo Gusto as well coming in and Kunku coming in. There's very exciting players to look forward to. Pochettino, of course, we're finally getting that manager with experience, regardless of what he's won, that you've got that managerial leader there. And, he is making that clear before he's even stepped foot at the club. So hopefully, I mean, we won't see and speak about it until, you know, it's actually in action. But I'm feeling a lot more hopeful for next season, or at least we have to, don't we? Otherwise, it's just going to be the same repeat.
Yeah, you can't go into next season feeling negative. You've got to approach it with positivity. I think there's a lot to be excited about, but we've also just got to be clear that, you know, we can't expect miracles and suddenly be sort of top 4, top 5, like expect to be that next season. Like that should be the aim. But I think we've got to, you know, slightly adjust our expectations. You know, coming 12th and the mess that we were in, you know, there's no guarantee that we're just going to straight away go back to coming 4th or 5th. The Premier League's a lot stronger now. Brighton, Newcastle are up in the mix as well. Liverpool won't be that bad again. Spurs, dare I say it, shouldn't be that shit again. So yeah, it's tough. It's competitive, but yeah, overall, I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. But this is a massive summer for the club, and they've got to get the big decisions right.
Definitely. Well, there you go. That's a good way to, I think, finish it off, because there's plenty more to come, guys. We'll follow the summer transfers through. We'll see who goes, who stays, what Poch is doing, what he's thinking, what's on the line. So it's going to be an exciting few months before we see Premier League football return. Plenty to talk about. Like I said, this was a nice little trial and erroring. It's great to have Charlie on as my first guest. Obviously, I'm going to link his channel down in the description below. Do check out our Chelsea Fan TV content as well. And yeah, guys, please leave your feedback below. Like I said, you can only learn and grow. So any feedback is welcome. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and we will see each other soon. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Pleasure. Thank you.